Hi there, welcome to the Kenny Veach Cave mystery. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a little map analysis as someone had reached out with some mystery coordinates in regard to the case. So I'm going to be taking a look up close at these coordinates, the location, analyse how it links to Kenny, or how it could, and the potential cave location, and see what's really going on. Now with time, this has happened. The last time I did it was to do with coordinates of a giant, supposedly looking cave. If you haven't watched that already, feel free to do so when you've got time, as well as all my other videos. You'll be able to keep up and reflect back on anything missed out. Top right corner, where the eye symbol is up there. The full playlist on Kenny Veach and cave is available where the eye symbol is. And welcome to anyone that is currently here during this live premiere. Share your thoughts and reactions in the live chat box on the right, and at any point or time. And for those watching on catch up, feel free to drop a comment down below, whether it's just a general thought, a theory, a concept, a question, an answer. It's all welcome. You can even share your reactions to what we're looking at today. So with that all being said, in addition, if you want to support the channel, just down below in the comment section pinned, there is a PayPal link and channel membership. With that being said, let's get into the map analysis and check these mysterious coordinates. So let's try the first one out, which is here, and see where it takes us. Okay, so like Hayford Peak area, Enchanted Forest. Does it give the actual named locations? I'm not too sure if it does. What have you got down there? Basin Spring. I'm going to zoom out just for a second. Oh, it's after Hayford Peak, which makes it a little bit more interesting. Got to take into consideration that whilst this is much further on past Kenny's hike loop route, is that possibility of did Kenny Veach go further north? Of course, with his scent ending at the mine shaft, it does make it a bit more tricky. But if there was ever an explanation to try and justify that, to make sense of why the scent can end at some spot, but the person can continue onwards, if that was ever possible, just as a theory concept, with the coordinates given over that way, what significance does it have? See, the person that left a comment saying these places, have they ever been checked out or not? But why these particular locations? And it was in the comment section of a video I did some days ago. So the first set of coordinates where that red marker is, we'll have a closer look at it in just a second, just to familiarise ourselves with where we are. So you got Little Jermay Canyon down here, Wild Horse Pass, going on further north, either up that way, which is a bit steep, or coming down this way west, and then going up that canyon up there, which does pass by the Sword in Tent. And you can see like pathways, not literal pathways, but where you can go up and over. Now, as for Hidden Forest Ridge, Hidden Forest Trail, more touristy, Lower Deadman Spring. Where's the car park area? I can't remember where it is. Somewhere down there, I believe. I think that's the road itself. I think, yeah, that's like the parking spot there, I believe. And then you can walk up that way. The paths are, more designed for people, more friendly. So it's not quite off the beaten path. However, SB Vegas Adventures, I believe Scott Natal as well, have gone up that way. All the way. I don't know about Hayford Peak then. And so far up, can't exactly remember where it is in particular, but there is a cabin somewhere up this way. There's a few clearings as well, which was mentioned by people to be checked out. And what the original theory or concept was, did Kenny go north onwards and then decide to go to Hidden Forest Trail, whichever one it's called, and then went to that cabin. However, it has been checked and no traces of Kenny, no sign of Kenny up this way. But when it comes to the peaks, Hidden Forest Ridge and Hayford Peak, roughly in these areas previously, there was markers, coordinates given by Gene Lukowski, who claimed to be a part of Red Rock's search and rescue in the past. and stated that in these areas when searches were conducted, abandoned tents and campsites were found, more than one spread about. Now that could apply to anyone really when you think back. Kenny Veach supposedly did have a tent, but only one. So if you do find multiple, only one can really be Kenny's. And would Kenny Veach really hike way over this way? If he was continuing on north and he was having a break or a nap, maybe, but then where does he go from there? What ultimately happens? So the whole tent situation with Gene Lukowski, it was never really updated, but I'm just giving you a reference point considering we are over this way. However, when SB was going up Hidden Forest Trail in the past, I believe it might have been winter time or where there was snow, and he also remembered describing it as it was quite eerie, some creepy feeling atmosphere when out about over that way. So even though it's not as desolate as Little Jermaid Canyon, it's still a little creepy over that way. So it's worth considering, because if it is creepy, if there are any mysteries over this way and Kenny had been present, did he encounter anything? Would I say the M Cave is over this way? I'd probably say no, because it's not near to Nellis Air Force Base, not a chance, nor is it as close to the test range. But, you know, of course, if you look the other way over there, you will have restricted military land, so you've got to still take that into consideration. But the peak over there on the mountains, more further on, I do find that interesting. Just for a second, what's this all about? Why is this all white? Is this like a glitch or something? I've never seen that before. Something tells me it's probably like cloud shadow. I can't imagine that being snow. It's probably like a cloud. But why is it in only one area? That's weird, that. You look everywhere else, you don't see any cloud unless it's been stitched together, possibly, or like a visual glitch. Could well be. Unless it's smoke from a fire. Cloud or smoke. Interesting. That's weird. Fine. Anyway. Let's see down here. What's so interesting about this? What ultimately stands out? Is there a pathway? What does the lower ground look like? Let's get... Actually, I would do coordinates, but I can imagine it will take it away from the one what we're currently at. So if you're on lower ground, over this way, near to White Rock Canyon, Basin Canyon. Okay. So you can make a journey up that way, first of all, likely on foot, and the gradient isn't too bad. I believe that's a wash. Quite a wide one, to be honest, compared to the others, as it works its way up. And I'm just going along just to see what's along the way, what's of interest. Why would this place be of interest? Why does it need to be checked out? You know, like when people do get these coordinates, there must be a reason behind it. Now, previously, it would have been, oh, they believe that an M cave is here, a cave is there, or some kind of opening. But what are we actually seeing in this spot? What stands out? Anything unusual? You can pause the video if you want. You can also leave a timestamp too if you notice anything while scrolling about. I mean, look, in fairness, it's just probably a ridge overhanging, but you could argue and say that looks a bit like an M shape. But it's too big. Too big. I know Kenny said it's gigantic, but he also said it's the same height as him. And he's not gigantic. This is the thing. You've got to be somewhat strict at times, because if you're just very loose with the M cave reference, you could say anything is an M cave. Anything that's M-shaped could be it. And it goes... You know, you could start finding so many things. You could say, well, in the UK, in France, in Germany, there is an M-shaped looking cave. Is that linked to Kenny? No. It's about trying to keep a little bit grounded. I can imagine it's not visited as much here. And hopefully the processing is loading in. You let me know if you see any caves yourself, right? I don't see anything just yet. Won't there be any mine shafts either? Because you've got to take in consideration the hike footage which Kenny had in his channel, maybe not so much related to the Cave mystery, but his other hike videos on his channel. You never know, some of it may have been recorded of him going to a place like this at some point, whether that links to the influence of coordinates being given. Basin Spring, which looks awfully tight up that way and very, very steep when you start looking up there. And then somewhat the same there, looks pretty steep. Now, I don't know if this specific beacon was provided as in what's located at the top or on the sides. Like, you know, there where it appears black, is that an opening? Is that a cave on a side of a mountain? Yeah, checks out, as Kenny described, but is it an M shape? No. Does it look deep and dark? Kind of. But does it look accessible? No. An M cave doesn't have to be on ground level. It could be higher up, but it does need to be somewhat accessible. Hence why Kenny was able to originally get somewhat close to it. And when you look at that, it seems kind of unlikely that you'd be able to get up to it with it being so steep on the sides. But nevertheless, it's interesting to check out these other areas out of interest, whether you just want to hike for the sake of it, or you think that Kenny may be over this way. I know if you spread too far out, you could say, well then, he's pretty much anywhere if he hiked north. But based on what Jeff Clark said, you could only hike so far north, practically speaking, under the circumstances for someone like Kenny. Right? So it's a bit dark. The shadows have taken over. Don't really see too much going on. There's like ridges there, gaps and shadows. Nothing too prominent. I don't see anything on ground level either. We can roughly check the distance out of one of the locations to pair with Kenny's possible hike. Which one is it? 36, 40, 22. Right, so this one takes us a bit further back and a bit lower down as well. Okay. So we're over this way before. Let's get down to the lower level. Interesting. Closer to Hayford Peak, closer to the areas of where some camping tents were found in the past, as claimed by Gene Lukowski. How the hell do you say that name? Queednump Spring? Let's go to ground level, if that's even possible. Seems a longer stretch. What canyon? Right, so at the base it's Queednump Canyon. Now I've had to let the thing process because for some reason Google Earth has been absolutely trash when it comes to processing the imagery. And I really don't know why, because it's been kind of blurry in places, which is really frustrating. So hopefully it didn't impact the previous spot before. And if it did, I'll go back to it very briefly. But I just want to make sure the imagery, the processing has been done. Splits off up there, but like a bit of a side canyon, more narrow and steeper. We'll continue this way as if we're heading towards that marker. I probably will need to add the marker back on in just a second. Said, if you see anything, you can leave a comment down below. Just checking the sides. And if there was a cave in an unreachable spot, then likely, whether it's an M cave or not, it's probably not exactly practical, end of the day. You gotta look out for the ridges and overhangs, which can cast shadows, making it look like a cave when it's not really. It's harder to check for mines, more so mine shafts, because it tends to be just like a tiny little hole. If you look up that way, it looks pretty dangerous in some ways. Well, not dangerous, but with the tall mountains and stuff, and how it gets quite narrow. Okay, well, put the coordinates here. There we are. I just wanted to do that first of all. It's just, it's near to Hayford Peak as well. Just get back down to this ground level. Really narrow in this area. Lots of shades and possible caves, or just dips. Take in mind, when I'm moving the camera about, it's very awkward to do because just the way Google Earth is. As said, some other time to look at some other places of interest a little bit more relevant to Kenny Veach based on his original description, I will need to do a poll about would you like to see Frenchman Mountains, Sunrise Mountains, an analysis over there of potential spots of interest, just because Kenny did describe it near to Nellis Air Force Base, which is over that way. I did do a poll previously, but no one voted on it. I think it glitched out, YouTube did, so no one saw it, so I had to remove it, and I'll repost it at some point, maybe later. But it's a bit of an overhang, I can't tell. It's casted a shadow then. It's a lot clearer though, up this way. As I said, it's just exploring, checking out new places of interest. There's no harm in doing that, and acknowledge it from, what viewers think, what they believe, their interest. But to be honest, it does seem maybe more accessible. We're being closer to Hayford Peak and Hidden Forest Ridge. I think maybe more people would be coming up this way. But someone like Kenny, would he be coming here? Different colouring there. Some like white dots. I don't know if that's a snow, or lighting issues. Really does go steep up that way, bloody hell. But it could still be caves, there is that possibility. But what do we have here? Why is a marker added exactly here on the side of there? Can't see anything at this moment. Pretty flat over that way. Don't really see any caves, some side canyons. But then again, the colouring and how it visually looks there, that's a bit weird. It might just be glitched. Looks like Chinese symbols, that. Chinese text. What's going on there? Probably just a glitch, but it looks weird, the visuals, all those white lines. I'll need to watch SB Vega's video shortly at some point. We'd actually do that soon. Yeah, take in mind, like this is a good example. It kind of visually glitches out on the 3D rendered models, so it makes it look a bit funny, a bit odd. But as tall and as steep and as inaccessible as that is, I don't feel at all Kenny would be up that way. Would he have hiked up here at some point? You never know. But if we briefly just go back to the other one, just in case the visual aspect glitched out and anyone missed out, I don't think we did we? It looks pretty clear. Right, so to go back to the mine shaft, should we say the mine shaft or should we say Wild Horse Pass? In terms of distance, how far would he go? How much more distance would he cover? We'll just count Wild Horse Pass or lower down the beginning because he would have turned off that way in his normal hike route. But do you have the coordinates of the furthest one? We do. I'm just going to measure the distance just to get an idea. It won't let me, will it? It won't leave the marker on. Oh well, we'll just have to do it blind. Typical. Do about there. Distance wise to Hidden Forest, 6 miles, about 7. Now Jeff Klaus said, based on his estimation and the likelihood of Kenny, if he had gone north, how much further would he have gone until he succumbed to the environment, died, passed out, became dehydrated, couldn't go on any further, got sore, got hurt, injured, likely 7 more miles. I think you take it in proportion with the total distance going over Wild Horse Pass and making it all the way back down Pitcher Canyon and back to where his vehicle was parked. That distance could be applied to going north instead, and I'll do that in just a second. But But then you've got to take in mind that the hike route itself can differ because this is up and down hills and mountains. It depends if he chooses the lower ground or the higher ground whilst going over Wild Horse Pass to get to, if he was to do Hidden Forest Ridge. And diagonally, which isn't the most practical way, it's like 9 miles, and over there it's like 10 miles. Would Kenny Veach, once he's gone over Wild Horse Pass, once he's done 3 to 4 hours of walking, would he go north and cover 10 miles? And take in mind that this is not accurate whatsoever, because I'm doing it diagonally across mountains, the quickest way there. And that's not possible in reality. You're not going to be able to just climb over mountains and back down like that. You have to go up so far north, then go up those canyons like the Quee, whatever the hell you call it, canyon, up that one. Or the, was it Basin Canyon or something? Up those areas. So you're going to go so far north, then take a right. I just don't think Kenny Veach would do that. But it is in the area where Gene Lukowski mentioned in the past, so it's a bit of a strange coincidence in some way or another. But in terms of the distance, that in its own right, besides these coordinates, is extremely important in trying to estimate, the possibilities of where Kenny could go. So if we just do roughly, once he goes over Wild Horse Pass, and he goes through Picture Canyon, then just like a rough one, that's all. Yeah. Because then once you've got the total distance here, you could round it up about 7 miles. And that kind of is close to what Jeff Clark was basically getting at. If it's roughly, and I say roughly, 7 miles once you got over Wild Horse Pass to get all the way back to your vehicle as part of a circular route, 7 miles back, you could do that 7 miles just going in one direction, continuing on north. And as we measured, that would get you to Hidden Forest Ridge, Dead Man Canyon, over this way, 7 miles onwards. And I'll just double check the measurements, somewhat accurate. There. Some weird little visual glitches going on there, a bit dodgy. I say it's a very, very rough one. 6 miles. Where's the Dead Man Canyon? Well, to get to Dead Man Canyon, that's about 4 miles onwards or so. Once you got over, Wild Horse Pass, about 4 miles. So really, we can move it on to make it to pushing it a bit. Is pushing it maybe Hayford Peak, Hidden Forest Ridge. Some narrow canyons there. Hidden Forest Ridge. And it was around this area, wasn't it? Where the coordinates were. So at least one set of the coordinates are close to the furthest where Kenny Veach could possibly hike. But that's just making it to ground level before he decides to ascend up those mountains, which by then he probably would be knackered and exhausted. Nevertheless, it was the right time to add in the likelihood, because Kenny did say in a message that he would, if he didn't find it, would hike 45 miles north. If that's just one way, that's extreme, that's very unlikely. If he meant half the distance there, half the distance back, to total 45 miles, still very unlikely. Even if he did like 20 to 25 miles north, extremely unlikely. Because he would have already done 3 to 4 hours on foot from Jermay Road up to the mine shaft and then onwards over Wild Horse Pass. Already enough energy consumed, and to go any further, probably the distance as in what you would do going back to your vehicle as a loop, but applying that going north. And that still only goes so far on. But whilst SB and Scott Nuttall have been out there, they've not found Kenny at this moment, nor the cave. I still think that there's a chance that the key areas of interest within the case of Kenny Veach is likely going to be the mine shaft. We'll just get back to it. the mine shaft at the furthest, this one, and then the hotspot area, which is down here, as in Pitcher Canyon. It's a part of his original hike loop route. It's where the most strange activity has gone on with different hikers. And as for the mine shaft, it's where Kenny's scent ended at, depending which mine shaft it was. But still, it's worth acknowledging these coordinates from other people's points of views, because you never know, they may know something, but we don't. Every now and then, people can just brush it off aside and say, it's nothing. In terms of this situation, my conclusion would be the coordinates, and with what I've looked at up close, I didn't see anything prominent or strange looking. And whilst it's in the area of some references in the past, unless there's been findings by SB Vegas, which I'm not aware of, which are near to or at these given coordinates, that aside, I don't think it leads to much on this occasion. But as said, you brush too much off, ignore too much, you might miss out on that one gem piece of information or coordinates or details. No harm in ticking it off the list and just going along the way. Of course, if I did notice a strange pattern, as in it feels like it's going a bit over the top, that it's happening too often, then maybe people are doing it for other reasons. But you know, if it's within the area, roughly, and you've got any coordinates to do with the cave, M Cave, Kenny Veach, military, any strange patterns and markings or anything like that, what you've noticed, and you want it to be highlighted in a video, analysed, broken down, whatever it may be, you can drop a comment down below. There's no harm in it. You know, in a way, it enables the viewers to get engaged and hands-on too, and for them to be acknowledged, because it can be helpful at times, for sure. So with that being said, I hope you found the video somewhat interesting. If you do want to give the video a thumbs up, hit the like button. And if you want to share the video so more people get to see it, then that'll be appreciated. With that all being said, my name's Warlike Ref. I'll see you next time. Goodbye and good night for now.